Live in front of a live studio audience, it's the Dicebreaker Podcast with your host, me. It's me, Wheels, here. We haven't got Matt Jarvis today because he's not feeling very well, and we are back for another episode of the Dicebreaker Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by two of the team. First but not least, it's Maddie Cullen. Maddie, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Fantastic.
Happy to
And
be here.
last but not least, it's Alex Meehan. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm just here. I'm vibing.
Just vibing.
I'm
Hanging out.
I'm just here, I guess.
We just had a pretty lengthy discussion about a Disney film that no one remembers.
No.
But we are now going to be talking about, pardon me, I've got a little bit of a cough as well. I think everyone's feeling a little bit ill at the moment.
We've all gone through it, roughly speaking. Like it feels like we're gradually, the curse is gradually making its way through us.
Yes.
Now it's got Mr. Jarvis.
Yeah, So I've got this theory, and I might have borrowed it from someone else without realising. I probably have, actually. I've got this theory that everyone's getting freshers flu because they've not been around humans for so long.
Yeah.
And now we're all just, like, swarming back into places, and, like, we're all just getting colds, you know? Like, it's not...
I mean, speak for yourself.
Oh, you got actual COVID.
I had full on COVID.
You drew the short straw.
I particularly offended that witch.
Yeah.
Like, particularly offended her. Like, whereas you lot was slightly...
Yeah,
At
we
least
just
you
got
made
some
an
pretty nasty
impact.
colds,
Yeah.
which I'm still recovering from.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about this week in gaming. We're going to be talking about some news, what we've been up to. There is a new D&D sourcebook out. There's news about Warhammer 30k. And we're also going to be talking about some of the celebs that we would like to play TTRPGs with. But before we do any of that, let's talk about what we've been playing recently. Spoiler alert, it's not a whole lot. And we'll kick things off with Alex Meehan. Alex, what have you been up to today?
Oh, no.
Or this week, rather.
The thing is, right, last week, it'd been a while since I was on the podcast. So I had lots to talk about then. And I'd also been playing quite a lot of board games around that time, etc. But since then, it's been pretty quiet over in this particular corner when it comes to tabletop gaming. But we all played something that I think we could just all collectively talk about together.
Yeah.
That is the new Dungeons and Dragons.
Dongons and Grogons.
Dongons and Gongons. Campaign adventure book called The Call of the Neverdeep.
That's it. It's
That's the
calling.
one.
And we answered.
Yeah, we did.
We got real deep in the nevers as well.
We did.
Oh God, Wheels!
What? We went in a cave ravine water place. That's all. But yeah, we played through it. We had the wonderful Liv, who is currently editing the Let's Play as we speak, DM it for us.
It's a doozy.
It is like, I think the first in-person RPG session we've had for about 2 years, and I think you can tell because we are all just absolutely losing it.
So overexcited.
Yeah.
Just a bunch
So excited.
It's like we'd all had a Red Bull and a chocolate bar before we started filming, you know?
Yeah.
It is
And
absolutely
Liv is
fantastic,
just-
though.
It's like Liv. I think we've used this analogy before. It's like Liv. It was like Liv is taking us to Disneyland, and like we're all on those little. You know, you can get the little leads for your children.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Like
harness.
We're all on those, and Liv's like, "Oh my God!" And we're
like running in front of each other, tangling our leads up.
Yeah, pulling in different directions. Because we all want to go on the rides.
We did, and
Yeah.
we did go on rides. We played through like a fair. So we just played the sort of introductory, kind of like adventure-y bit. We had the sort of like call to adventure moment like towards the end, but obviously we're just doing like a preview, so we didn't want to spoil the whole book. But yeah, we got to go for a fair and do some games, and we met Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and it was just fantastic. No, it's not a spoiler, it's a teaser.
Yeah.
It's still a little
True.
appetizer.
A little aperitif.
Yeah, there is one bit related to the Shaggy character particularly that set us off multiple times.
Yes.
Like, we will warn you in advance. Like, this playthrough is somewhat chaotic, but it is also just like there are moments when we're laughing so much that none of us can like function for about
I
a minute.
cried so much with laughter. I don't think I've done that in a very long time.
Genuinely, I had a headache at the end because we've been laughing so hard. Which
so much water.
I think is more. I don't necessarily think it's because the adventure was so good. Not to shade Call of the Liberty or anything, but I think it was so good to be in a room playing RPGs with the Dicebreaker folks again. You know.
Yeah, and Liv is like such a good DM.
Yeah.
Like, she plays along with our ridiculousness.
Yeah.
But
she never says no.
no,
is that a good thing? Well,
she mostly encourages it, to be honest. I will say, when we say chaotic, like, we do progress things along, and
this is the funniest thing, though, isn't it? I think that was one of the stupidest Let's Plays we've done in a long time, and yet we rigorously stuck to the quest and what we were supposed to be doing.
We got through that adventure, like that, at least that part of the campaign. Like, we got through to the end. It felt like a marathon because we're not used to, well, like, Wheels and I particularly, we're not used to playing like full-on D&D
modules. Yeah.
So to us, that felt like, oh wow.
To be fair, it was 2 chapters merged together, and they're both like 3 to 4 hours each. So I think we did pretty well.
I'll say that Liv was ambitious in the amount of content she decided to. Like, it did take the entire day to film. Like, we were. Something
pretty
soft
much
on my foot. Oh, that was weird. Yeah, so we. I thought it was a cat, but it was a like glasses bag. But never mind.
Right.
But yeah, no, we did like spend about 5 hours playing. We're going to be doing something a little bit different as well. Yeah, like we had to take a break in the middle because obviously we needed lunch, and also I think you had a Japanese lesson, right, Meehan? Yeah, so like we definitely needed a pause. But the funniest thing is that like we literally, I think when we broke for the sort of intermission, essentially, we were all just like, "Oh my god, I'm so hungry!"
Yeah,
absolutely ravenous. I'm so used to playing D&Ds at like, or not D&D, sorry. I'm so used to playing RPGs at like, you know, in the evening once you've already had dinner and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. But
also, like, usually the sessions I play don't go longer than like 2 hours most of the time, or like 3 max. Like I've not done a full all-dayer in like a long time, and I think that's a result of not playing Dungeons and Dragons specifically, or you know, RPGs that are designed to you know, that there aren't so many convenient break points. Like you'll have a combat scenario that goes on for, you know, like an hour.
2 hours,
nothing but under 10.
Yeah, I will say there were some really unlucky rolls that particularly Maddie seemed to, again,
bad.
Maybe instead of the illness, your curse was just rolling very poorly.
I will say that, and this presumably is part of the module, so I don't think Liv's to blame here. I will say that there was a certain mechanic which was maybe inhibiting the odds of us doing anything interesting, but there was a particular situation where, like, one of the key mechanics of D&D was making it like a lot more difficult for certain characters. That's the way it rolls sometimes. But
I shouldn't like do what my class is kind of meant to do. Which is fine, you know, challenge me, but.
The Cooler than Ebony, just to clarify, is the adventure that's set in the world of Critical Role, and it was written, I think, fully or at least partly by Matt Mercer, who is the Dungeon Master for Critical Role, but as far as we could tell, you've watched a little bit, Maddie, but like as far as I could tell, there wasn't a huge, like, there aren't like references up the wazoo. Like,
I felt about as lost as any D&D book where someone starts reading out random fantasy names to me, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. What's happening?
Like Glogorian,
Philibus Fispar.
Philibus Fispar.
Shaggy Duke.
I had a good time because it was quite focused on, for the most part, on like interactions, and when we were doing, you know, skill tests, they were for these little, like, I don't know what you call them, like competitions,
like challenges.
Yeah, they weren't for like, you've got to do this or your character dies, or, you know, they weren't like, you've got to avoid this.
Yeah, because like even though you guys succeeded yours and I failed, it was still fun. Like, it's still like a good outcome.
It was like, again, my preference with role playing stuff is, I just want to role play. I just want to I want to interact with characters and be that character, kind of play out those interactions. And this was refreshingly more like that. And I think it feels like Dungeons & Dragons in general is going more and more in that direction.
I'm running Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and that can be totally combat free. It's like just depends how you want to tackle it, which is really fun because it's like gives you the flexibility. Like if you want the combat, you can have it. If you want to just like chat and have fun, then you can.
Yeah, it feels like Wizards, the publisher of D&D, it feels like they are recognizing more and more that a lot of people, you know, who want to play D&D or play it, want those kind of experiences of it's not just a combat encounter that lasts 3 hours. Like it is also opportunities to use those elements of their characters that maybe they don't use so often, or have an excuse to create characters that aren't so focused on like min-maxing. I mean, like that.
Like your cleric.
Yeah, for example, I did what we call a Matt Jarvis, which is I made a cleric with not an amazing wisdom score, and then it was only when I started playing that I remembered, oh, hang on, wait. Clerics use wisdom to cast spells, and then of course that meant that my spellcasting ability wasn't great.
Not amazing, no.
No, but like I made a character based around a concept, like an idea of who they are, rather than like
how good they are at casting
the
spells.
Most efficient.
Which unfortunately just doesn't work in this system.
No.
It only came up kind of towards the end. Like up until that point, we didn't know there was like anything we were missing.
Yeah, no, I genuinely didn't realize until I actually started casting spells that I was like, oh, hang on, my DC is really, really low. Oops.
Maddie Wronglow says, do you think it's because of the like actual play scene and the fact that combat isn't as fun to watch that so many new players are coming in for the RP side rather than the combat side? And I tend to think like I don't watch actual plays at all. Like we're in them, but it's not the kind of content I consume. Which makes me sound like some kind of YouTube eating monster. But pardon me. But like I just prefer it. Like I don't think it's necessarily like a cultural thing. I think it's just that as people are playing more RPGs, they just have realized now that they have more fun when they're just hanging out and just like doing fun things and telling stories.
I think Barry Wronglegs probably has a point. In terms of like, honestly, most people I talk to who play role-playing games play D&D. Like, and they only play D&D. And that's a lot of the time it's because they can't find anyone else who wants to play anything but D&D or run it. So I don't think it's necessarily that people are playing other RPGs and being like, oh, this is better. I think it's more like...
No, not that. I just mean that people have been playing RPGs for a long time now, regardless of whether or not it's just D&D or if they've been moving into lots of stuff. But the thing is, like, I don't think that the like cultural dominance of like actual plays is necessarily the thing that caused role playing to be more popular. I think
I don't think that's necessarily what Maddie Wronglow said. I think it's more of the fact because actual plays are like prominent. Like there are plenty of people who watch actual plays but don't actually play. role-playing games. When they actually come around to playing, you know, an RPG, a D&D, whatever, like, you know, I think they do want to at least somewhat emulate that experience of watching, because as someone who has watched actual plays, some episodes lasting like 5 hours long or something, whenever it's combat, it is the most boring part of the episode. Like,
I switch off.
I would say like D&D combat, particularly, again, having played it like recently, reminded me of like the fact that I don't think it's that engaging a system, even for the player, let alone for people watching it. Like, I imagine there are plenty of people who do enjoy watching it, because then maybe they can think of like what they would do, or think about strategies and stuff like that. But like, having played D&D combat recently, you just feel so restricted. Like, you're like, I'm asking Level, can I do this? And she's like, oh no. I'm like, but why? Yeah. Why can't I do that when I'm so used to having looser combat systems where I can like try a different approach?
Yeah.
Because the D&D system doesn't support some of those approaches, it means I just can't do them. It's not even like, not even like the DM can go, oh, okay, you've got to roll this.
Yeah, it's like harder for you because you're not used to it or something.
Yeah. Whereas with the D&D, it's just like, no, you can't do that. Just like, well, that's really, I find that kind of frustrating, because to me, you know, I think if you can think of something your character could feasibly do with what they have, you know, available to them, or what situation they're in, then I think you should at least be able to have a chance to do it, rather than like, just, no, you can't do it at all.
I've got an absolutely killer segue coming here, because Maddie, I think you talk about this in your most recent video that's coming up this weekend.
Yes, I do.
As you chat about old school essentials.
Yeah, this is exactly why I never thought I was never like, oh, I want to check out an OSR game, like an old school revival game. I was like, that's not something I ever thought I wanted to do. And I do love D&D, and I do enjoy the combat, but again, I very much kind of had to unlearn when you first start playing and you're like, oh, I want to try this, and you realize like, oh, actually you have to do like a specific thing. You can't like cut someone's hand off and then they can't wield a sword anymore. It doesn't work like that. Whereas old school essentials does work like that. The combat is so like rules light, but in just like a really, really fun way. It's very much like, whatever you want to do, you can do it. The DM is just like, yeah, you like leap off a cliff on top of a goblin. That's going to do way more damage. Maybe you just like insta kill them, stuff like that. Like, it doesn't have to be a roll. It's just kind of more like descriptive and cinematic. And like, it's really, really fun. Yeah, it's made me kind of look at D&D combat differently and be like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do at the start, and it's like fun to actually be able to go back to that and be like, yeah, okay.
I think that was a thing at some point, right? Because that the whole point of old school Renaissance is like looking at how games originally were and like trying to emulate that a little bit. And I think because the rules were simpler, like in the sort of first iterations of the system, it meant that people were just sort of filling in the blanks, which is my favorite way to do roleplay, right? It's like I think the most elegant systems are the ones that don't try and, you know, prepare for every eventuality. They just like have something that's flexible and well structured enough that you can sort of make up your own way through it. But as D&D has gotten like more modern and like had more sort of like potential use cases, had like a definite answer to, it makes it like, ironically, like the more options you have, the more limiting it feels, because you don't fit into one of those options.
I think it's like, oh, now we have a system for when you want to do that, but then because you have the system, you still have to do it in a very specific way in order for you to actually do that. And if you don't do it like that, you just can't. And it's like,
I think it's because like they have so many more, like you look at the classes and like 0E or OSE, and it's like you have like one class feature, and maybe it's like you have like infravision, which means you can like see like, you know, heat in the dark, and like that's like it. So you kind of can just do whatever. Whereas now, I think, you know, like one of the things I do love about D&D is like all of the different classes and subclasses and how different they are, but to make sure they feel different. And then you're like, okay, why would I be a swashbuckler rogue over like an arcane trickster? Like, you have to make rules to make them different enough to like make it worth it. So it's like, I think they've kind of gone with like, we'll do like really specific class features, but then it has meant like it is limiting in some ways because
it's feature creep, isn't it? It's just that kind of like, we have to keep adding new stuff, but then the more stuff that you add, the more complicated it gets. But also the complications means that you're sort of like limiting everything that has come before it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like a situation of, if you, for example, find yourself in like a certain combat situation where like what you can add to that situation is either just not working out for you, or you're not in the right kind of place to do that, then what can you do for the next like hour? Like you're literally like sit there and like being like, well, I guess this is it, guys. Like I'm I'm just going to keep failing this roll, or like keep doing like a minimal amount of damage to this thing. And I just feel like it's not that I would necessarily want a power fantasy. I just don't find that very fun to like do.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to do something, and it is like
even if it like doesn't like completely solve the situation and everything is dealt with. Like, you still want to feel like you're doing something that is making somewhat of a difference. And then like it is a joke because I literally made my cleric character in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I literally just pre-gen mine. I was just like, I'm going to press the button that says make a monk,
Like... A lot of it is my fault for just not putting that time in. But we're busy people who have a lot of work to do. So spending half an hour to make a character just isn't viable. But also, like, the kind of cleric I made was like the spells that they had available to them. You can't really use them in combat. Like, there's maybe 1 or 2 that you can, and the rest are much more like applicable to outside of combat and such. So all they can really do a lot of the time is just swing a staff, which doesn't really do much, and it's not very exciting to kind of witness that. Whereas like other situations, like other RPGs I've played where I've been in combat scenarios, I'm not entirely against combat scenarios. It's just like other RPGs I've been in when I've been in combat scenarios, like, and with characters that aren't necessarily like designed to thrive in that kind of environment, I've still enjoyed myself because the system has allowed that character to still contribute something, even if it's not just firing off a really cool spell or like shooting a massive gun or something like that. Like, I don't know, they've distracted something, or they've like gone around and looked for something and found something that can help with the situation, or like called someone to come and help them or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what like keeps you immersed, isn't it? Like,
like,
as soon as like you can't do anything, you're like, oh, I'm stood here, and then suddenly you're out of the game, and that's when it stops being fun because you're not like I'm
stood here pressing the mouse over and over again, and my character is doing the one animation of like just swinging the stuff, and I'm like watching it going,
why won't you die?
No, it's like I would compare it to funnily enough, Dragon Age Origins, which is a video game is beloved, but it's got problems and it's not aged amazingly well.
It's got first in the series syndrome,
which it was a game that was inspired by classic tabletop role-playing games. It has a system that is designed for you to create characters and use them in particular ways. But like in that game, particularly if you're playing like a physical character, like a melee character, to be honest, any character, like when you're just doing a standard attack, it's the same animation like over and over and over again. And like that was a big criticism of the game that some people had afterwards, because like when I was in the middle of a battle, not just using my abilities, you just watching just this replaying animation.
It's like a GIF.
I'd forgotten that was a thing, and I remember playing like a dual-daggered person, and he would do the exact same backflip 40 times. I'd completely forgotten about that. Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh, and adding wrong length as origins is the reason the word miss makes me irrationally angry.
That or Morrowind as well. Baron Breakfast asks, surely these combat problems can be fixed by creative play. Imagination can overcome restrictions. And I think that's a fair comment. However, like, I think what we're talking about is the fact that because modern D&D design, and this is not a D&D only problem, like there's
it's
a lot
not
of
a
games.
D&D only problem.
I think like Pathfinder is the one that people compare a lot to, and it has the exact same problem where, even more so probably, where they try and answer every question for you, which like I think a lot of people probably really appreciate. I don't want to say that this is like the wrong way to design games or anything like that, because I think a lot of people that
it helps
don't play in the way we do, you know, like it like that.
I think it helps people who maybe just don't know what to do. I think it helps people who don't know what to do. So that's
why it's a good starter game. I think it is, and why people do just kind of stick with it, because it's like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Like,
I think D&D is interesting because in some ways, a lot of us don't think it's a good starter game. I don't think it's a good starter game. I'm not going to speak for other people. Because there's so much that you have to consume, and sometimes it is overwhelming for people who've not done anything like it before. But on the other hand, it's also a bit more nicer to newer players because they know what they need to do. Like,
you can look at your sheet and be like, this.
Oh, I can do this thing. This is what I can do, and it's. But then I feel like, to me, that doesn't generate the best role-playing opportunities, because I think the best, the ones that Baron Breakfast is maybe talking about, the best role-playing opportunities are the ones that come from, like, creativity, like thinking outside of the box, thinking like, what can I see around me? Like, what would my character do in this scenario?
That's like how you try and sell tabletop role-playing games to new people. It's like, you can do anything. Like, that is meant to be the appeal, is like nothing else is like this. Not like a video game. Like, you can just be there and do anything, like react how you'd want to react. So it is hard then be like, okay, but not that though. But
it's hard going back. It's hard like having played a lot of role-playing games that would allow me to, like, I'm going to move out of this situation and then find something useful to use maybe, and then come and use that in an unconventional way. Like, D&D combat just doesn't seem to support that.
I definitely find, like, for D&D. Sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, I think what I would like to see from newer iterations of D&D is, instead of just sort of saying it's fine, you don't have to do combat if you don't like it, what I would like is for them to try and actually really improve it, because I think the reason that people shy away from combat in D&D isn't just because they don't like getting into fights. Like, I think combat is really, really fun in RPGs when it's done right. But I would like to see them like refine it and like, take the training wheels off a bit, make it a little bit more like, give a bit more creative freedom to the players, all that kind of thing. But sorry, carry on.
I was gonna say, like, like for me, obviously the limitations aren't always fun, but like, I know D&D, like, combat for me, it definitely is like about, like, I like the strategy of being like, this is what I have to work with, like, what can I do in this situation? And like, sometimes it is frustrating, but like, because I guess in some ways it's like a specific type of combat, and like, that's what it is right now. So it's like, if you do enjoy that, like, you just gotta be like, okay, this is what I'm playing. Like, I can't just do whatever. Like, I do just have to like work with what I got.
I think when it works really well. Like, when you're able to do the thing that your class specifically does, then it feels great. It's when you're in a situation where that has no impact, is when it feels frustrating. It's like, it was like Liv was saying to me, like, it was a joke that we were having where she was like, how are you a cleric and you don't have any healing spells? And I was like, I didn't want to take any.
But also, like, you just, leaned into a different type of cleric, right? And it is that thing of like, hey, you didn't do the thing that the game expects of you, so now it's like falling off of it, and it's like, well, you know, surely in a limitless potential game, like there should be ways of working anything. But I don't want to spend the whole podcast talking about D&D because I feel like we do that a lot. So let's.
We will be circling back to D&D.
Yes, we've got stuff to talk about that
anyway. So, and now people are talking about Dragon Age in the chat. I caused that problem.
We're talking about romance, which is of course the central mechanic in all computer role-playing games, which is who can I bonk?
I mean, not all of them. The good ones.
True.
You mean
the ones worth playing?
Yeah. Aside from that, I've not really been playing anything else. I'm hopefully playing some stuff over this weekend, so I'll be able to talk about that next week. Some exciting stuff, maybe. I know, a little appetizer there. But other than that, I've just been watching like a lot of films recently.
Nice.
I saw the new Pixar film. I believe you also saw, Will's.
Turning Red. Turning Red is fantastic.
So good.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. Great.
Yes.
It's really good. Please watch it. It's a shame that it hasn't got a cinema release. Because apparently
I didn't know that. No.
This is what Disney are doing now, where, like, to me, this is going to be controversial. To me, I think they're more interesting releases they're not actually putting out in the cinemas, and they're putting out their more, like,
by the numbers ones.
Like, financially
stable,
assured.
Ones that will not upset anyone in China.
Yeah, that as well. But, like, I don't get me wrong, I thought Soul, which I'm not sure that came out in cinemas, but that was one of like the bigger Pixar releases. I thought that was really good. But I like what they're doing now with the small weird films that they're doing, like Luca and Turning Red. Like, I like these very specific low stakes films that they're doing that aren't necessarily about some of the very big existential, themes that Pixar films often like to tackle, which I think are great. But sometimes it is nice to have, a film that is a bit more specifically directed to this is what this is about.
Yeah, like, in this case, sort of like, like family trauma, I guess, is the thing that they go into. Like, it's that sort of way more personal drama than they tend to lean into.
Yeah,
if I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like a film about several. It's still a film like about several different things that I think that are really important. Like, like generational, different generations of immigrants. Like having that clash of like growing up in different parts of the world and having being exposed to different culture. And also, like, being a cringy, awkward teenage girl in the 2000s.
That's the delicious garnish on top.
Oh my god! Like, my friend and I were watching it, and we were like, "Oh my! I feel like this film is calling us out." Like,
it's a hit piece.
Yeah, like there is a certain bit of that film where we were looking at each other, and I'm like, "That was us. Like, this is us." Like. And I just love that.
Without like trying to spoil things, it's the robotic nature at which she draws under the bed absolutely kills me. But like the impulse she cannot control.
That gif has been everywhere where like the main character May is like under the bed, she's drawing, and there's this amazing bit afterwards where she's like berating herself for drawing sexy pictures, and I'm like, oh my god, that was me as a teenager.
Oh my god.
Like, you feel the guilt and shame at the same time of being like, oh, like I'm exploring my bargaining sexuality. But
it was just really good to see a film that actually covers it as well. It's such a like it's such a stupidly taboo subject where it's just like the fact that. I mean, even they were struggling to use the word "period" when that was a thing, They did, like, I think the mum particularly uses. I think she does use like
the word period. Like, I think...
Does she? I don't remember it, because I remember them using euphemisms a lot.
Yeah,
but either way, like, it's, you know, that is a thing that for some reason I have never seen in a kids film before. Despite literally the age at which, you know, kids are watching these films, they need to know about that kind of thing, you know.
I've seen it in there's a really wonderful film called Only Yesterday, which is a Studio Ghibli film. It's one of the lesser known ones. And that film is about like a young girl growing up in the 80s in Japan. And there is a specific part of that film where she gets her period, and like the way they talk about it is very much like you just get on with it, and then like, but you don't openly discuss it because you get teased for it, and it's embarrassing. But you know, also the whole thing is just not just about her getting her period. It's also about her, you know, growing up, becoming a different person. That's what happens when you grow up from being a child. You become like a different, or at least you're going through that stage of like from child into being like an adult. But would really recommend Turning Red. We also watched the new West Side Story, which is really good. Okay. I told my mum I watched it, and she's like, "How could you?" As if like, because she's one of those people who's like, "Oh, the 1961 is the only one that should exist."
You have to watch the one in which loads of people do brown face.
I know, right? I said that to her. I was like, "You do realize, like, in the new film, they actually hire like Latinx, like, you know, actors to play those roles. You know, people who are supposed to be from Puerto Rico. Like, they actually, but also like it's like." West Side Story is a musical. That's something that's always been like redone anyway. Like the creators, particularly Stephen Sondheim, who wrote the lyrics, is like, yeah, redo it all you want. Like, I want to see new versions of it. So
well, that's how theatre works, you know. Like you don't have the same production of a play go for like 40 years. It's so stupid to expect the same with the film version, you know.
And like, it's like integral. You have different actors, like you know, sometimes day by day. Like that is going to make it different every time. Like, that's
exactly.
Most people who like critically think about musical theatre are talking about like the aspects of which a different actor has brought to this character that we all know so well, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. Same with like, you know, Shakespeare or anything like that. It's just it's very dumb.
So like the sanctity that people have of the 1961 version is like, I think it's kind of ridiculous. And like this new version does have plenty of differences, but it also stays true to a lot of the original stuff. But at that point in the night, my friend and I had consumed about an entire bottle of red wine and a lot of cheese, and so we were like laying there like watching this sad film play out, and we were like, oh. Like, I also watched the new Batman, Batman, and I would recommend. I saw it last night actually, and it was really good. Like I wasn't sure what to think, and then I saw people talking about it, and they were like, "Oh, it's real good." And...
Sorry, I think someone's hoovering the corridor outside of our flat. I was like, what is that noise?
I was trying to continue while you were
I knew people would be like, "What is that?"
I can't hear anything.
No, neither.
I can hear the Batman calling you.
The Batman is calling you. Yeah.
It's got Robert Pattinson in it, so I'm sure it's great.
Essentially, like the marketing for it was, I wasn't too sure because it's really pushing like this is like
it's
dark.
Even darker than you've seen before.
Which is like what made me reluctant, because I was like, I've had 3 movies of that. Like, why would I?
Have you seen the Mr. Manhattan meme of like, it's 1984 and I'm watching a newer, darker version of the Batman? It's 1999 and I'm watching a newer, darker version of the Batman.
But I think, once again, I feel like marketing doesn't really understand what makes the film enjoyable.
Well, they don't care, do they? They want whatever will make people watch it, and they're like, it's like The Dark Knight. You remember that one, right? You like that one? Go watch that, you idiots!
Stupid idiots!
And they failed. It made me go, no, I have watched that. You're right, and I don't need to watch it again.
Whereas what they should have done is they should have pushed like crazy. They should have pushed the relationship that this isn't a spoiler, it's been in the trailer, that Batman has with Catwoman, Selena Kyle, because oh my god, the chemistry that those two have is amazing. Okay. Like, I was sat in the theater being like, I just want to like do this, like push them together like this. Like, they are such a good match of sad emo boy and amazingly beautiful and like cool lady. And I'm just like, push them together.
Perfect group.
So yeah, I really recommend the Batman. It is genuinely good. I would recommend to see it. Oh, Pat. I've never found, even during his quote Twilight phase, which would have been like bait to me because I was like a teenager during when those films came out.
Yeah,
they were
big.
I was the target audience, and I never thought Robert Pattinson was that good looking. Like, he wasn't. I was like, oh, I wasn't like Robert Pattinson maybe. But now I'm like, oh my god, I see it.
Because I think like Twilight, they're trying to push him as like this kind of like dreamboat hunk boy for the tweens, whereas like the reason our Pats is attractive is because he's a weird, dry-witted guy who's a bit like, woo, you know.
Now he's leaning into him being like a sad emo boy, and now everyone's like, I want that. Like, like, I'm thirsty for that now. Futurologist says, what about Lighthouse? Look, Meehan. He's sturdy in that.
Yeah, we all know the man that was taking our hearts in the Lighthouse, and that's Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
Winslow.
Just farting about the place. He's the fart machine.
Right, in true Meehan style, Meehan, you've been talking about what you've been up to for 45 minutes, so let us move on. Maddie, what have you been up to this week apart from what we've already talked about?
My main same as you guys.
Great. All right, let's move on.
I mean, I play like weekly D&D. I was meant to DM last night, but it didn't end up happening. Something came up last minute. But yeah, I play D&D every week. I'm very fun as a cleric. I do have some healing spells, so that's always helpful in combat. So I'm enjoying that.
No, it's not how we do them. Yeah.
Two shoes cleric over here.
But I'm playing a homebrew cleric, which is fun. Like Dream Domain, which my partner basically made to fit everything that I personally want into a character.
Do you cast sort of like Dream Daddy spells? Is that the
our group name is the Dream Daddy?
Is it? Oh, well, there you go.
I get to like I can like manifest like dream things from the plane of dreams. I can like make little like objects out of dreams, and I have little like I'm made of dreams. It's all very fun. Cool. But yeah, so
made of dreams.
You're the Sandman.
Yes.
Yeah,
basically just being fun and chaotic. So that's just always D&D, every week D&D. But I've also been trying to get more into like solo tabletop role-playing games.
Oh, okay.
When my friends don't want to play with me constantly, I'm like, I'll find a way to entertain myself.
Maddie, we've been playing for 8 straight hours. Yeah, but just a little bit more.
Oh, no, it's too real.
8 hours later.
I just downloaded Apothecaria, which is one where you're like a witch, and like you take over like a potion shop, and like you people come to you with like ailments, and you can like go foraging and like make potions and stuff, and you can like eventually get like a familiar. Yes.
Do one of those people come up to you? Do they ask you for your strongest potion?
No, because they can't handle her strongest potions.
No, can't handle it. My potions are too strong.
I will say the author of Apothecaria has featured on Dicebreaker.com as well, which is very exciting.
That's so
yeah,
cool.
You can read an article by her talking about. Do you remember, Meehan, what the article was about? I'm trying to remember now.
I'm not an encyclopedia.
You are more than I am.
Through your brain.
You can't expect me to know every single article that's on the website.
Ever published.
Dicebreaker Anna Blackwell. I'm googling it now. Here we go.
I'm sure that will come up. Because you got a new game coming out as well. So I definitely wanted to check out Apothecaria now, and like
here we go. It's Anna Blackwell, the Delve creator, talking about solo role playing of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire and Iron Swan. So there you go.
There you
If
go.
you'd like to hear more of her thoughts as a designer of solo RPGs, then you can find that on the Dicebreaker website.
She is great, so
yeah,
that's gonna be very good. Yeah, I haven't played yet, but I've just been reading through, enjoying the PDF. That's as far as I've got.
I've still got these Frostgrave boxes sat in front of me, Maddie, and I'm just chomping at the bit, waiting for the game that we play on the channel.
Oh, I can't wait.
We've got some models on the way so that Maddie and Liv can build up a warband, because we want to try and do a 1v1v1, which I think would be very exciting.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
Yeah, but we're going to do a painting stream with them as well, so look out for that in the future. But I've been reading through that and getting excited for it. And the reason I bring it up is we got messaged on Twitter about a Kickstarter that is currently running, I think. I'm just going to get the details up now because I don't have them off my hand. But I've been looking into this thing, and it looks quite cool, and I thought I'd talk about it. It's called Quest Haven, and it is a VR tabletop, like virtual tabletop for role-playing games. So essentially, like, you make your little character and then they have miniatures and you can create the landscapes. We're seeing a lot of those at the moment, but this is like a VR version. The reason it excites me is I love playing miniatures games. I don't often play them in person because, like, time investment, space investment, like having the right people around, all that kind of thing. Just like RPGs, but even more so. They're really difficult to organize. And the person I play like miniatures games the most with is like one of my oldest friends, a guy called Alan, who lives like miles away. So I'm desperate to like play more miniatures games with him on tabletop, but we can't do it in person. So I want like a VR version so we can both strap a headset on and over the internet play like Frostgrave or Infinity or whatever. And I think this, like, from the looks of the Kickstarter, I think this is what that like provides as a service, as well as the sort of RPG thing.
That's so cool.
But yeah, it looks cool. It's got that kind of like low poly aesthetic that a lot of like indie games are going for at the moment. But it's also like it's pardon me, God, it's got like a tabletop that you can move your stuff around on, but you've got an avatar. But then as you, like, say you're the DM, this is one of the cool little features that I saw. I thought was quite exciting. Say if you're the DM, you can select one of the little models on the table and inhabit them. So like you literally become the NPC as you're like acting them out, which I think is really good. Like that little stuff like that, I think would be way more engaging than just like a Roll20, like here is a token on a flat map kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's not. Yeah, because like miniature games like have a very specific feel, and it's like it's quite hard to capture that online. And that sounds like a way of kind of making it a bit more 3D and real and stuff.
So I'm hoping that like this will provide what I've been looking for. But it's cool. You're in like a little fantasy tavern and all that kind of stuff. You know, like
sounds like Dweeb Simulator.
Well, you're not invited then, Meehan.
No. I think. I just feel like you being able to inhabit the miniatures just opens a gate for.
Like, can you imagine some of the performances I'd be able to give? Like if I actually turn into a little goober goblin whenever I'm.
Oh like, God! Like one of the many, what are they called? The gobbones from like Warhammer, like the
snotlings.
Snotlings, yeah. You turn into like a little snotling.
Yeah, a little grot.
Or one of the little pets they have.
The squigs.
The squigs,
the testicle of a mouth. Yeah.
I really want a pet squig.
Well, look, maybe in VR you can have one. I'm not promising anything, but maybe. But yeah, I think the return of crab wheels, exactly. Thank you, Meehan. I think like that because not only have tabletop sim absolutely cacked the bed recently with all of the horrendous comments they meant about homosexuality and trans rights, regardless of whether or not you think that they've made like an adequate apology for that, and etc. etc. But not only has that been like disappointing to see, but also the VR support in tabletop sim is like so janky. Like it's just not very modern. So like I don't want to have to be fumbling around with that when I'm already playing a quite complicated game like something like Infinity. Like I want something that is just there to sort of like this should be a smooth experience, and then I just do the rule stuff on top myself, you know. So like I'm looking for that. I'm hoping that that's going to be good. I've been chatting with the people behind the game on email to see if they can give us a little early access preview or something. But yeah, so that's pretty exciting. That's what I've been up to. I've also I played some games in Dice Saloon over the holiday. I played over my holiday rather. Played some Class.
Yeah.
Not the holiday.
Your holiday.
My holiday.
The holiday.
I played some Clask. Introduced Em to Clask, and she made some of the loudest squealing excitement noises I've ever heard. And everyone else in Dice Saloon was very quietly playing RPGs, so it was very funny to just hear her going, "Oh!" Class, if you don't know, is like a sort of like magnetic table football game, and it's brilliant. We played Quacks of Quedlinburg as well.
Oh my god, a classic!
An absolute classic. So yeah, I've actually like, when I was like prepping for the podcast, I was like, oh god, I haven't played anything yet. But actually, like if I look back to when I actually was last on a podcast that didn't collapse, like I've actually played like a few games, so feeling good about that. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. And if that's all that we've been up to, should we, Alex, Meehan, move on?
Yes.
To the news.
Yeah. I'm in the chopper.
She's in the chopper. You all know by now how the chopper functions.
You know how this goes. I'm in the news chopper. Yeah, no. We got some interesting news this week. Probably the most interesting piece of news we have this week is, as we've said, there is a new D&D book coming out. It is like a compilation of different adventures that you can play. An anthology, which they've done before, such as the Candlekeep Mysteries.
Yeah.
What?
I have that. I'm hoping it's better than Candlekeep Mysteries. I will say I was a little disappointed because when I saw Adventures in a Library, I was sad to hear that I had to leave the library to do a lot of the adventures. So I'm just hoping that this one is really immersive in the settings. I think like if you're releasing an anthology setting book, I really want just the setting. So I'm excited though because the setting sounds so fun. Looks so pretty. Sounds incredible.
So it's called Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel.
From I thought you were about to say Raid Shadow Legends and
do
a surprise sponsored stream.
We're sponsored this week by Raid Shadow Legends. No, we're not.
We are categorically not sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
This is the first Dungeons and Dragons book that is entirely written by people of color.
Yeah.
All of the authors in this book, which is awesome to see. Wizards of the Coast have been slowly making their way towards having more diverse writers, and it seems like I hope they continue this trend, and this isn't just like a gimmick of look at this book. But yeah, it's not just got diverse people behind the book, it's also seems to have diverse inspirations for the stories, the adventures that you're playing.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of stuff saying it's like moving away from the kind of like Western style fantasy setting, which is just so fun to see because we've done a lot of it.
Oh, we've done it.
Yeah. A lot of it.
Yeah, it's refreshing. And then in that case, they're not just like picking and choosing elements of different cultures to just shove into Western fantasy, which happens a lot. They've actually got like full-on adventures that are like specifically themed around those inspirations. So for example, there is the opening adventure is called Salted Legacy, which takes you up to second level, and it focuses on a family feud that happens in a night market, and it will be drawing inspiration from Thai culture. Along with Studio Ghibli, Spirited Away, and Gravity Falls, which is interesting. That's an interesting mishmash of inspiration.
That's everything.
That's everything. Yeah, Spirited Away.
I ever want.
Yeah, like Gravity Falls and elements of Thai culture.
I'm in.
Whereas another scenario called Written in Blood is inspired by stuff like Lovecraft Country, which you've talked about in the past, Wills, and films by Jordan Peele, such as Get Out.
Wow.
These new films coming out is
big mix.
Yeah, So there is hopefully more. They're taking inspiration from a more diverse, varied set of people and cultures, but also more importantly, having the people writing those things, from those cultures. Like that is the most important part. They're not just
which it's almost stupid that we have to clarify that. But there we go.
You have to clarify this. Another adventure called Shadow of the Sun, which was written by Iranian-American Justice Ramin Arman. I hope I did that right. Is inspired by Persian poetry. So cool. Again, I don't think that's really something that we've seen much of in Dungeons and Dragons. like Persia and like Iranian inspirations is not something that you think of when you think of Dungeons and Dragons. But a lot of that is because they've just not delved into those cultures, those areas.
Even more so, like with especially with Middle Eastern cultures, like you tend to get
this mishmash.
The horrendous thing is that you will get a lot of Middle Eastern like quote unquote culture, but it's that sort of like Western viewpoint of it. A lot of like crusade imagery and stuff like that, where it's just like try like lacking accuracy and a little bit offensive a lot of the time.
Like it will be that classic like pick a mix of like they've taken inspirations from this country and this country and they've all merged it together as if it's one and the same thing. And then that the people who are actually from those cultures are like, well, this is not like what we associate with these things. So it's good to see that not only are they including more diverse inspirations, they're specifically including them from the cultures they're relevant to and from writers who are from those cultures more specifically. I was going to say something else, but I can't remember what it was.
Whilst you're remembering, I will say so I'm sort of scanning through to try and find the answer. I'm not sure if I've 100% got it, but what I would really like to see is making sure that it's not just writers in these roles, but also like in those sort of editing positions. Because I remember with previous D&D source books, there were sort of like stories that have been written by people of color with like influences from the cultures that they were writing from their own experience with, and then through the edit had those like elements stripped away and like had things that they fundamentally did not agree with like added into them. So
there have been reports of that happening, like I think even particularly with like specifically with Candlekeep Mysteries, I think that actually happened where I think
it might be what I'm talking about.
They were like marketing the book and look, we've got people of color writing for this, and then like one of those writers was like, oh, they've changed my story and added these elements that I think are like offensive, insensitive, and I didn't know that they'd done this, and I don't want my name attached to this essentially because this isn't what I wanted to do. I think you can read more about that on Dicebreaker specifically because we did cover it. So it's disappointing to be like, oh, Wizards of the Coast are reaching out to different authors trying to improve representation, etc., and then they do something like that. Like they don't actually, or they make bad edits, they make bad creative decisions, and it's like this is completely besides the point of what you were trying to achieve in the first place.
You gotta support it all the way to the top. I think one of the leads on it is he wrote on Ravenloft. I'm just trying to find his name.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember what he's called.
I think he's had quite a big part in this. He's co-lead on it. And like his Ravenloft stuff was incredible. I'm so excited from that.
Ravenloft, they made some good steps in the right direction with making like what do you call them, like making fundamental changes to the way that certain like cultures were depicted originally in Curse of Strahd, there's like a group of, there's a culture, and I can't remember what they're called, and they're basically meant to be inspired by Romani people. And then they have these really awful stereotypes that are that are attached to Romani people, which has caused, terrible things to happen, and it's gross. And with the new Curse of Strahd, and with Thingy's Guide to Ravenloft. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, that's the one.
Nice.
They made like fundamental changes to the way that culture was described to remove those like offensive stereotypes. Like wizards are making good steps in the right direction. I think ultimately hiring diverse writers and actually giving them control over their work is the most important thing they could be doing. It's like one of the big fundamental arguments I've seen and also I've made against things like the new season of Critical Role, season 3, being based in an area inspired by North Africa, like Marquise. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Marquette. That's the one. The new area that the season 3 is based in, Marquette, which I think also Call in the Neverdeep was based in partly as well. Is supposed to be somewhat inspired by North African culture, and yet like Matt Mercer, who wrote it, is white. He is Caucasian, and then people like the big argument that people are making are not necessarily that he's had writers to help with sensitivity and covering these things right. I don't think anyone thinks he's going to do anything offensive. It's more like, because Critical Role is as big as it is, it means that when people think of these kinds of settings, they're not going to think of settings made by the people from those cultures. They're going to think of the one created by Mercer and Critical Role. So that's why it is so important that Wizards of the Coast is making official source books and adventures inspired by these cultures, written by people from these backgrounds. Because people look to Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast, what they put out, as like, this is the official stuff. Like, this is what we reference when we think of these kinds of settings.
Yeah. And for some people, like, that might be like glimpses into a culture, as we're saying, like, this is when you do it badly, it has like long lasting repercussions, because for some people that's like their way in is through like consuming media. So it's like, if we can just have positive, like, that's your first step in, like, that's just
it's not enough that you represent these cultures and these inspirations. You need to have the people from those cultures who actually know what they are like, and doing that representing, like, also paying people.
Also like, just putting more people in the industry so they
to
make these things. But I remember, like, I think of all the films set in Mexico where they've like shoved a sepia tone over it to make it look more deserty and hot, and it's just like, it's that same thing where basically, like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, like, I feel like you're reading too much into this, like, we need to understand the amount of sort of like worlds that are created through the lens of like Caucasian eyes. Like, there's an almost embarrassing amount of the media you consume has to be sort of like checked almost to be like, presentable enough to white people,
is this going to be palatable to the white,
rather than just hearing unfiltered voices from people who actually know what they're talking about. And it's like, I think sometimes, it's quite insidious almost. I think sometimes you don't even really realize it's happening, and those are the most damaging, because like, as we said before, like, you internalize it, and it's that idea of the, what you're watching is authentic, regardless of thinking about where this like idea and this world actually came from. And you just naturally, your brain associates those things. So like, having those things written by people who actually know what they're talking about, have actually come from those cultures, who are actually ingrained in them, is just always just going to be better. And it's also like, if you're eye rolling right now and talking about, oh god, like, who cares? Like, you should care, because you've been listening to the exact same story for 400, iterations over the entirety of your D&D life. Like, you know, but eventually you're going to get bored of Western fantasy. Like, you need to start looking at things that just aren't from the same pool of fiction that you've been listening to this whole time.
Yeah.
You'll realise that it's like there's so much more to the world.
It'll be fun. Like, it's just going to be fun. Like, it's a really fun, different setting. Like, it's going to be so refreshing. Like, it sounds so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, they were talking about it being like a solar punk thing, which is like my absolute favorite thing in the world. And there's not enough. And it's like, we're looking at these like hopeful futures, and like, it's just like, it's just something different, and it's going to be so much more interesting.
The journeys through the Radiant Citadel will be available from June 21st. Nice. And there'll be 2 versions of the book available. So the main difference is alternative artwork.
Yeah,
so,
the alternative cover is so pretty.
Yeah,
so
I
nice.
like it.
I usually never get the alternative cover, but I might be doing it for this one.
So yeah, that's the new D&D book. It's exciting stuff. We stand.
Sure. In
conclusion, we stand this as long as Wizards of the Coast do it properly, please. Other news, Warhammer stuff that I don't know if I can really talk much about.
Do you want to take over? So
go Wills.
They have announced a new edition of what is, I think, colloquially known as Warhammer 30,000, but is actually the Horus Heresy, which is essentially the essentially the sort of like precursor to the events that we know as Warhammer 40k. So like it's kind of like I'm trying to think of an example, you know, it's like the stuff in the Silmarillion in comparison to Lord of the Rings, right? It's like the deep lore behind like why the world is the way it is, kind of thing, and like the introduction of chaos and all that kind of stuff. So it is very much like it's even more niche, you know, like which means that it will be very exciting to a very small group of people. But if you are interested in it, it's that like it essentially plays, I think, pretty similarly, but it just has like a completely different sort of like roster of things, and it's a little bit more of a smaller window, like rather than the sort of like grand sweeping, you know, 400 different types of armies kind of Warhammer that you're used to. It's more of a sort of like tale that focuses on a really specific part of like the Empire of Man and like the collapse and all that kind of stuff. Like you can see there's like a lot of people are very interested in like the stories that it tells, for example. So the like main thing that you'll notice with it is, I think they look back at sort of like classic Warhammer models and take inspo from them. So like even the image that we've got in this article, which we'll have a link to in the description after it's gone, after this podcast's been fully souped up, but the like shoulder pads have like these giant like ball bearings on, almost like it's super 80s. And considering that like the considering that the like origins of Warhammer 40k was this like anti-Thatcherite kind of like hair metal inspired like super cheesy 80s thing, I think we forget that because Warhammer now is like almost like it takes itself relatively seriously, like there are some like really goofy origins, and I think whilst this is still like a very like grim dark tale, you do get to see a little bit more of the like original kind of character that the game had. So it's kind of interesting. Like it's very, very niche, but maybe something worth interested in. There are helmets that have beaks. That's fun. Yeah, so there you go. They're nicknamed Beakies.
When is this new edition coming, Mr. Whelan?
Let's find out. Further details of the game and its box set due to emerge ahead of its launch later in 2022. Thanks, Matt Jarvis.
Yeah, thanks, Matt Jarvis. Matt Jarvis, News King. The only other news is there's a Catan game coming. That's all I can tell you. Catan Dawn of Humankind, I believe it's called. And it's going to be set like in prehistoric, Africa, essentially when the world used to be just one big old
Pangea.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's my favorite continent.
I love Pangea. No, I'm so excited.
I love Panera Bread.
I didn't know. Inside of you, pro Pangea.
I'm all for Pangea. I'm big on it.
I'm so sick of all these oceans.
Well, I have a whole thing about if we drained the ocean. We'd keep some water, but then we could like just walk everywhere and we'd reclaim land. And that Pangaea would do that.
Yeah,
so.
Great.
Well,
Maddie for president 2042.
I
have big ideas. Pangaea top the list. That's fun. Love that.
Yeah. There's very little known about it. I don't know if it's just going to be Catan with, like the woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tiger and stuff. But it's Catan probably. I don't know what more you can say.
Yeah, well, we don't know much about the mechanics yet either as well. Like it's and the thing is, I don't know if this is just going to be another one of those like, hey, it's Star Trek now or whatever, like where it's just like, we don't know what to do with Catan because we know it makes a lot of money, but it's it's kind of what it is on the tin. Yep. There's not really much you can do.
Look, Klaus Tuber needs a new extension on his house.
Yeah.
So it should just be called Catan. Klaus Tuber needs a new extension on his house.
Yeah. My assumption is that this is like maybe a design that was near enough to what Catan sort of like talks about, that they were like, let's use the name so that we can give this a bit of a boost. But I like considering, like, I think there's already like a sort of like prehistoric Catan and stuff like that, as far as I'm aware. Maybe that's Carcassonne. No. I don't know.
You're thinking of King Domino.
Oh yeah, no, King Domino. Yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, okay, well, we'll see. I would hope that it's something new, basically.
Yeah,
apparently this is the era of prehistoric, like themed board games now. This is the hot thing. We're all making board games set in the Stone Age now.
They should have waited to put that Far Cry Caveman game out until now.
It's hot now. I can't
before
believe
its time.
I forgot that even existed.
Of course you did. They made it in about 20 minutes. You know, it had the exact same map as the game that came out before. Like they didn't change the like landmass shape of the game's map from the one that they did before. Like they just redressed it in the style of prehistoric. But anyway, we ain't a video game podcast. But there you go. That's the news. Are there any interesting articles that people should check out for themselves on the website, Meehan?
Yes, there are. There's a lot of hot news on the website right now. Even ones that hot news.
Hot boys.
Pressing that button. The soundboard that I still want so badly. There's a lot of hot news that we've not even talked about.
Ooh.
Such as there is the new Pokemon Academy Battle Academy box that's been announced. There is a Dread. As in the Dread RPG, but Dread theming, as in Judge Dredd. It's
what
it's
Dread
wild.
with DREDD Dread? Oh,
yeah,
that is quite a crossover.
There's some more serious stuff, like the fact that the Kickstarter CEO has stepped down in what continues to be a bit of a tumultuous time.
Yeah,
the company stopped doing NFTs. There is also some stuff about how you can support the victims of the current Russian invasion of Ukraine. There's plenty of stuff going on the website about that. There's also a lovely interview from the people who are making Tibiru, the weird digital board game thing that's coming out, and a great opinion piece about mega games, which is not something I was aware of until now. I think they're just really big board games.
They're the bridge between board games and LARP, and they look really good. And I really want to try them one day. Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And also Toto's here.
Oh, that
face! Sorry, I've got to get off the website now. So yeah, you can go and read all of that currently on Dicebreaker.com.
Dicebreaker.com, your home and hearth for tabletop news.
Do it.
Board games for everyone. So we've talked about what we've been up to this week. We've talked about some of the big news stories that have been hitting the website. It's time to get to everyone's favourite part of the podcast. It's our weekly feature. And Meehan, this was your idea, actually. So I'll hand over to you once again. Would you like to tell us what we're going to be doing today on the podcast?
No, you can't do that and expect me to. Yeah, producer coherent
dribbling
sentence.
all over me. So.
Oh, you know that he's happy.
It's the good dribbles.
Yeah. For the people listening, Wills is picking up Toto and squeezing him and
cat patting,
squeezing some dribble out.
And Toto's dribbling. Yes. So this is not hot news, but it was news on the website. Turns out that the actor / comedian, now passed, Robin Williams, was a big fan of Cyberpunk 2020, I think, specifically. The sci-fi role-playing game.
And who knew that game was going to be such an accurate prediction of the year 2020?
Which is not something that I knew. Apparently, it was relatively well known that he was into games.
Yeah, he was a big Warhammer 40k player as well, I think.
Yeah, Warhammer. Yeah, Warhammer player. So I thought it would be fun for us to discuss who we would love to play a role-playing game with. What celebrity? What would be our dream role-playing celebrity?
I think just straight out the gate, I would love to play a Robin Williams RPG.
Oh,
he's such a wonderful man. And I think, to look back at his career and just think about how incredible he was.
When
it
I was
would be
talking
great to play an RPG with him.
To Mike Pondsmith told me this, who is basically the creator of Cyberpunk, the series. And he just casually was like, "Oh yeah, Robin Williams once called us up and asked if he could have like a source book because he'd left his at home." and Mike Pondsmith was like, "Wait, what?"
Yes,
and apparently he had a friend who used to run like games for Robin Williams. So I was like, I said, I wish I was in that role-playing group because,
imagine,
a improv comedian
who was famously good at impressions as well. Like, it seems like he's got all the tools,
everything you could want.
Perfectly suited.
To be like an amazing RPG player. You just wouldn't want to bother playing. You just want to watch him do it all the time.
Just sit there in awe. He's like, please, no, go on. Continue talking.
He also said the guy who played Shaggy in Scooby-Doo the movie. I can't remember the actor's name.
Oh, the guy who's in Scream?
Matthew Lillard.
Yes.
He's a massive D&D fan.
Yeah, he was like,
let's get him on the show.
Like, oh, Matthew Lillard is amazing at role-playing. And I was
so good.
Really?
The famous actor from Hackers.
Hackers!
Hackers!
Oh my God,
so
Hackers.
good.
Can we email Matthew, if you're listening? Our people can talk to your people. Let's get you on. We had Shaggy in our most recent D&D Let's Play coming out on the channel this weekend. So I think it's a natural progression to have you come on as a guest star. So let us know.
So does anyone have any immediate picks apart from Robin? Let's do that again. Any immediate picks apart from Robin Williams?
Do you know? Well, the chat have already said what the one that we were obviously going to. Obviously, Danny DeVito. He's in the game. Matt Jarvis has said that we talk about Danny DeVito too much. We're going to prison if we keep talking about Danny DeVito. So I think
from the channel.
Let's think about some new celebrities.
How can I?
I have this whole thing about. There's like not someone that has replaced like Robin Williams or like that kind of generation of like comedic actors. And I always think about this and I'm like, who is now coming up as those kind of like amazing impressionists and like stuff? And I'm like, we don't have that anymore, which is like, it's kind of like end of an era. So it's hard to find replacement for that.
Well, we talked about our Pats. I think our Pats.
Oh my God, I was thinking of our Pats.
Pretty fun addition to the table. I feel like instead of like just picking one celeb, we need to create a party and a GM.
Oh God.
So I think if our Pats is in the sort of rogue role, I think he'd make a good sort of rapscallion figure.
Yeah.
So what else are the classics? We need to have a tank, a fighter. We need to have some kind of healer, some kind of wizard.
Kermit the Frog Bard.
Done.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Easy.
Yeah, I'll take that. So wait, hang on. So you want you just want someone playing because
and then give me.
I don't want to ruin your sense of immersion, but Kermit the Frog is a puppet.
What are you talking about, Meehan?
How did he do that?
Yeah, how would he ride a bicycle if he's a puppet, Meehan?
You're like pointing at the footage. Look at the footage.
He's in films. I think he's
films. Don't lie. I can see them. Someone has to sit under the table the entire time we're playing puppeteering Kermit.
So wait, would you just imagine no bounds to this. This is like the dream restaurant in Off Menu Podcast. Which a few people
of course I've listened to.
No, as in you can get anyone you want, like regardless of whether they are with us or not.
Yeah.
Like, so
regardless of whether or not they're a puppet.
Yeah. Would you want I can't remember his name. The guy who invented the Muppets.
Oh, Jim Henson.
Would you want Jim Henson playing Kermit?
Well, I would like original Kermit.
Right,
does he play Kermit? I thought he had
whoever's
a
the original
actor.
Kermit.
Jim does Kermit.
Jim does Kermit.
I want
original.
He didn't do a lot of the Muppets, but he specifically did do Kermit.
Okay, all right.
There's a whole thing about how Kermit's voice has changed, and it's like not the same as it used to be. So original Kermit, obviously.
The original OG Kermit, played by Jim Henson.
There's so many.
So we've got Robert Pattinson as a rogue. We've got the Bar being played by
Kermit
being
Jim
played by Jim Henson.
Yeah, well, we're getting a little bit meta here. We got the sort of it's a sort of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place style situation where the actors are playing actors who are playing characters. But what we've got the other roles that we need, like a sort of fighter / barbarian like tank figure. We need
oh my god, what's
wizards.
His name? He played he's a British comedian. He's got a very loud voice. Brian Blessed as
the barbarian. Yeah.
As a barbarian.
Yeah.
He's in his sort of Flash Gordon outfit.
Yeah, he's in that.
Yeah.
I've met Brian Blessed. He recorded a video for my niece where he plays his character in Peppa Pig.
Oh wow. Well, yeah, we're definitely having Brian Blessed as a barbarian. Who yells a lot.
Retro Futurologist has just said Richard Ayoade, who I think would make a fantastic wizard.
Yeah, he would make a good wizard, actually.
Oh, bloody hell, I've run out of spell slots.
That's a perfect wizard. Wow.
I can't believe we didn't think about it our own self. Thank you very much, Retro, in the live chat. If you're not watching these podcasts live at 2 p.m. GMT every Friday, this could be you.
What else could you possibly be doing?
Yeah.
Are we in this situation? Are we agreed that Robin Williams is our GM?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be wasted for him not to do every single possible.
Yeah, he's going to do every voice. Yeah.
So we've got Robin in the DM position. Mm-hmm. We've got our Pats in the rogue position. We've got Kermit the Frog / Jim Henson in the bar position. Richard Ayoade is the wizard. Who else have we got left? We need a cleric.
Did you mention
Brian Blessed is the barbarian.
Yeah. Okay. Let's have some. This is a sausage fest.
It is. Let's get some.
Let's fucking non-binary and women in here, please. For goodness sake.
For the love of God. I'm struggling to think of anyone who fits the cleric role, because I feel like clerics are just sort of like
Kate Blanchett.
Oh, I'll look after you then, I guess.
Kate Blanchett as the cleric.
How do we feel now?
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, Kirby Rawstone. Yeah, Tilda Swinton as the cleric. Yes, please.
I won't ask her for healing. I will just be too scared.
Oh my god! Of course.
Just be like, please, no.
Wei Han Lim says, "Is it safe to assume that Meehan would throw up Florence Pugh?" Yes.
Now, what what classic D&D role does Florence Pugh fill? Because I'm not sure.
My girlfriend.
Your girlfriend, which is a very important part of D&D.
Okay,
party.
she can be a +1.
No, she could be a warlock.
Do you know what? I was actually just about to suggest a warlock.
Or a ranger.
Or a ranger. How do you feel for the warlock position? I've forgotten her name now, but Fleabag actress.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes,
no. It's there.
Why can't I remember her
name? The name is there. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, thank you. With Bridges, rather. Famously stars in what's it called? Death Stranding. The CEO of Bridges, Phoebe Waller-Bridges.
You really confused me then. I was like, she's not in Death Stranding.
I was like, what?
I would remember
that. Yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge in the Warlock role. How do we feel about that? Because she's always, also in Fleabag, she's always talking to the camera. Could be our patron.
Yeah, okay, no, yeah. Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the Warlock. Florence Pugh as a Ranger.
Sure.
Tilda Swinton as the Cleric. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a big party.
Yeah, this is a big old party.
Yeah.
He's going to be a druid.
Oh, yeah, druid. Okay, druid.
Willem Dafoe.
I mean, I was thinking Willem Dafoe in Lighthouse. He does give big druid energy.
Just being a scabby, smelly, like, reclusive man.
No, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Matthew Lillard in there.
We got to work him in somewhere because we just offered him to come on the table.
He's got to be in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think Matthew Lillard in reprising his role as Shaggy as the druid of the group.
Yeah. And the Great Dane must also be invited.
Yeah, well, no, that's his wild shape.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any other classic roles that we need? I think that's the whole table, isn't it?
We've got a lot covered here. Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like any more personalities and
no
one's gonna get a word in edgeways. Yeah. I'm just imagining how Robert Pattinson and Tilda Swinton are gonna interact.
I was just thinking the interactions would be so interesting.
Those two together is, I think it's it's got potential for sure.
Yeah.
The sorcerer.
I'm thinking of Tilda Swinton in her role as the angel from Constantine.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that she's giving me as the team cleric.
A gay icon.
Gay icon. She could be playing that sort of, was it the Azamar race?
Yeah, the ones that are like, they're like, I can't remember what it's called. Yeah,
Angel
they're basically
West.
angel people.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the question then. What are the races of the other players around the table?
Ooh.
Species.
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard, human.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's bog standard. Yeah.
Yeah. We want him as he comes.
Yeah. We just want Matthew Lillard. He doesn't have to play a character.
Matthew, please.
Brian Blessed is a dwarf.
Really? I was going to say one of those giants.
Goliath.
I was going to say Minotaur.
Minotaur?
Oh, Minotaur is an excellent pick.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of combining a few things.
Oh, Angel B. Maybe Zoe Kravitz, just because she keeps staring at our pets. I can't watch that because then I'll just combust. Those two. Yeah, Robert Pattinson will play a drow, I think.
Oh, Richard Iowati as a gnome, says Retro Future. Excellent suggestion.
Little gnome Richard Iowati, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, Tilda Swinton as one of the Azamar, yeah. Florence Pugh, half elf.
Sure, yeah, she's kind of elfin. Who else we got again?
Phoebe Waller-Bridges, tiefling.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scampy.
yeah. Perfect.
Cheeky little scamp.
Danny DeVito.
Where? He's not even in it, is he?
I think we went allowed.
He's just hanging around.
He's just there. He's just hanging out.
He's just like sat in the corner.
He's not really into D&D. He just turns
He's a goblin.
He's a little goblin.
Yes.
Snotling.
Snotling, yeah. Who else did we have? I can't remember. I've lost count of who else we had. I think is that everyone?
Yes.
Oh wait, I think Willem Dafoe was in there somewhere.
Willem Dafoe was the alternate druid. He's in the understudy
Kermit.
position. Oh, and Kermit. Sorry,
Kermit.
Kermit is a grung, I guess.
Yeah.
He's a frog. There are like frog people, right?
Yeah, the grung.
Yeah, grungs.
The grung. Yeah, he's a grung.
Yeah.
Maddie, I've noticed throughout this episode that because you've got like the street outside your window, it's like one of those news broadcasts that are like. You know, people are walking past.
Yeah, live. People could like be behind, like, "Hi, I'm on TV."
Yeah, today on the news tonight, Richard Iowati joins a D&D group. Yeah, DM by Robin Williams.
Shuffle them.
Lady Hanlon says Danny DeVito is a permanent resident of the Dicebreaker Celebrity Mansion, where the news chopper is parked outside. Yes.
Or on top of, because it's a chopper.
Yeah. Or on top of, because to go up.
Of course.
I think that's a solid party.
That's a fantastic. Okay, so just for the final wrap up, we've got Robin Williams in the GM spot.
Yeah, Robin Williams, GM.
Danny DeVito's just hanging around.
Danny DeVito's just doing snacks.
He's doing snacks. Brian Blessed in the role of Barbarian, playing as a Goliath.
Minotaur?
Or a Minotaur.
Minotaur, yeah.
We've got Kermit the Frog, who is a Grung, playing as the Team Bard.
Yeah.
We've got Florence Pugh, Ranger, Elf, half elf.
Yeah.
We've got Richard Iowati, the Gnomish Wizard.
Yeah.
We've got Phoebe Waller-Bridge, the Tiefling Warlock. This is a huge party.
Yeah, it's a huge
party. There's way too many people.
We've got Arpats, we didn't actually give a species to Arpats.
I said he was a drow.
Oh, a drow, okay. A drow rogue. Is it just because he doesn't see the sun in the new Batman film?
Yeah, he lives in the Underdark.
Yeah. And then... was there one
more? Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton as an Azamar cleric and Matthew Lillard as a human druid.
Yeah.
Feeling good about that? I think it's a pretty solid
party. I want to watch it. Yeah, I want to watch what happens. I bet it devolves in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't like... Rob Williams is not going to get a word in edgeways.
Which would be incredible.
All right. Well, there it is. Our little topic of discussion. We do features like this every week. So if you are a big fan of us talking about celebrities that we want to see put on spandex pants and swing an axe around, then you are in the right place. But to round off this episode, we are going to do what we always do and look to you in the live chat and in our emails to look at some questions from the people at home. So if you're watching us... if you're watching us and you've got a burning hot question that you've been chomping at the bit to ask us, maybe you missed Maddie's Q&A, you want to ask her a little late question about her joining the team, maybe you want to hear more of Meehan's strange goings on, or maybe you just want me to ramble on about something for 20 minutes, let us know in the live chat, or you can reach us on contact@dicebreaker.com via email.
Well, I'm pretty sure we had some questions in this here document, and now they're all gone.
Yeah,
excellent, fantastic.
Yeah, well, excellent stuff.
Whilst we're figuring that out, we've actually got a chat message that's just come in from BMD Nerd. He says, "What kind of board game would keeping up appearances be?" Which this one seems angled specifically at you, Alex.
Okay, so I don't know. Towards me.
Out of the three of us, who do you think is most qualified to talk about a show on the vein of keeping up appearances?
I mean, I've watched like maybe a bit. Like
immediately, then you're more qualified.
I don't. I don't
Maddie,
even know where to start. I wouldn't even.
I know the premise. Keeping up appearances is a 70s, 80s, 90s.
It would have. I'm gonna bet 80s,
70s to 90s,
70s, before the millennium.
The oldie days.
Yeah, a sitcom about a lady who lives in the suburbs who thinks she's very posh, but the joke is that she's not that posh.
I see.
Her name is Mrs. Bucket, but she calls herself Mrs. Bouquet, and that is the extent of my knowledge.
All right.
Well,
so what kind of board game would that be?
I didn't even know her name, so you knew more
That's the only joke they ever tell, as far as I'm aware, is that people call and she's like, it's not Bucket, it's Bouquet. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that she's got some ugly sofas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, who didn't at that point, to be fair?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I would just say, like, I mean, you can make anything an RPG, right? Like, just
I almost feel like RPG's a cop-out, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a one-page RPG where you have to
keep up appearances.
Yeah. Like, you have to try and trick people into believing that you are an upstanding member of society.
You have like, two
load
stats,
of stuff.
Bucket and Bouquet.
Yeah. Bucket is like the I don't know what
you
just have to class.
Yeah, your like bucket stats go up.
Your bucket stats and your bouquet is like your poshness.
Nice.
But, yeah, and then there's various shenanigans going on that you have to like manage.
Retro suggests maybe a dexterity stacking game in the style of sort of reverse Jenga.
BMD Nerd says, I assumed all British people watched it.
That's wow. That's
well, take away my passport.
Truce, I believe, has a question, Mr. Whelan.
Okay, emergency backup question.
Backup question.
I'm going to delve into right away. Just smashing that glass before they've even put it on properly. What's the board game you've played with the fewest quote-unquote moving parts, e.g. cards, dice, board, etc.? Peak Minimalist is a game that's somehow just a single object. So straight away, whilst we're thinking about this, I will say that was the exact design intention behind Love Letter, one of the most popular games.
A popular game, yeah.
Outside of the big ones. Which, I think literally the designer was like, I wanted to make a game with like the fewest components possible. It was a Japanese designer, I think. But yeah, so that kind of vibe. What's your fave in that? I think I've played. There's a game called, oh god, what is it called? Again, like I feel like most of these games are going to be abstract.
Yeah.
The more theme you add to something, the more components that end up getting added in. But I think there's a game with like rope and wooden boards. I think I've played it. I might have just known of it. Is it Shobu or something like that?
Yeah, sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
I don't recognise this at all.
I think it's
I haven't played it. But
actually, to be fair, this has got quite a few bits. But yeah, it's sort of 4 boards with some coloured stones and there's a rope in the middle. I can't remember how it works, but I remember it being very popular. Somebody help me out here.
I don't know what this game is. Oh
no, I'm the question in general. Sorry, not Shobu.
I can think of as card games. So I'm like, that's fake.
I mean, it's like a single deck of cards, like One Deck Dungeon is a very good game that literally the whole purpose is that every single encounter also functions as both like an item, XP, and like an ability or something like that. So when you like, they all have like double dungeon doors on the back, and you flip it over to enter. And then if you beat it, you slide it under your character sheet, and depending on which side is sticking out, it becomes a different thing, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I
mean, like keeping it simple.
Like a game like a roll and write like Yahtzee is like
Yahtzee's
all you need
low,
for Yahtzee is literally just some dice and a piece of paper.
Yeah,
really.
or like Railroad Ink or Welcome to or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Roll and write games, card games, like Fox in the Forest, for example. Technically, you just need the deck for that, and it's a very small deck. Like if you can remember what the rules are, like you don't need the other pieces.
Yeah.
Like you can just keep score on a piece of paper. So
this is it. Some things, like when you know what the rules are, can be very simple. Like again, like I'd say like any like some RPG games, like especially like solo journaling ones, like once you know like your prompt is, like you just need a pen and some paper or something. But
friendly attack.
Games, though.
Friendly attack once was throw a penny at the wall. That really made me laugh, actually.
I mean, yeah, like I'm sure the game standing still as long as you can also does not have very many.
You know those kind of games that your parents wanted you to play. Shut you up.
Now we're gonna play the quiet game.
Yeah, now we're gonna play the quiet game.
Hold your arms up in the air.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna leave it there because we've answered a couple of questions. We're getting into our allotted time slot, but if you've got more questions for us,
one said that's what we do in Newcastle.
Up on the sign. Right, yeah. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. This has been the Dicebreaker Podcast. I have been your temporary host, Michael Wheels Whelan. We have been joined, of course, by Maddie Cullen. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Alex Meehan, thank you very much for joining us.
That's great. I've got a lot of pennies to throw at the wall.
Oh, don't we all?
Oh, this is for you.
Not enough time. Too many pennies.
If you want to see more of us here on Dicebreaker, you can either stick around here on the YouTube channel, or if you're listening to this after the fact on places like Spotify or Google or wherever it is you get your podcasts, please head on over to youtube.com/Dicebreaker. We've got loads of content coming out recently and soon, because Maddie has been working on that old school essentials video that we talked about earlier. We've also got that Let's Play that we talked about earlier of the Call of the Neverdeep coming up this weekend, and I believe we're doing a premiere. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of live chat, which is going to be fun.
What time? What time, Mr. Whelan?
It should be either 3 or 5 o'clock, but we'll find out. Bear in mind, if you look at the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see it before it goes live anyway.
Yeah, so I mean,
it should be up today for you to hit, watch soon.
Follow us on @JoinDicebreaker on Twitter, and there will be an announcement there. Absolutely. I'm sure there will be a tweet.
Oh, there will. Yeah.
Yeah, that will tell you.
Otherwise, Liv has forgotten to do one. You can also find more of Meehan and Matt and Chase and all the rest of the contributors over on Dicebreaker.com, writing some fantastic articles. Talked a little bit about some of those that are on the website, and I'm sure there's more coming out soon as well. New news every day, apart from the weekends, because we don't work there. But thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next episode of the Dicebreaker Podcast and on the next video here on YouTube. But until then, have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye.